Network Entertainment.
It's about being able to master your life. It's not control in the sense of perfection.
Yes.
Or not being open to all the possibilities. I think in the end, I go back to saying, mapping things out. It's having a plan.
Yes.
Someone told me years ago, there was a popular book called The Secret.
Yes.
And now the term is manifest,
Yes.
right? And then I realized, this whole idea of manifesting, and mine is a more crass version. I tell friends, isuka mo sa universe.
Oh, okay.
Right? Whatever you want, you put it out there. I think I was doing that at a very young age, not really aware that it would really would come back to you. And then later on, I started to pick up and see, the energy you put out, good or bad, really finds its way to you.
Right. Hi, this is Mirza Season. Welcome to You Can Do This, a podcast that'll help you achieve your dreams and goals one episode at a time. What are you waiting for? Let's go! You know the popular phrase used in sales, he could sell ice to Eskimos. Well, the chinelas has been the humble, staple, home footwear of every Filipino household since it was introduced to the Philippines by the Japanese over 400 years ago. Who knew that someday someone would make it trendy and eventually a cult collectible fashion essential in the Philippines with the Brazilian brand Havaianas? That was 20 years ago when our guest today, now recognized as the flip-flop queen, co-founded Terry S.A. Inc., a multi-brand retail company that now employs almost 500 people, and where she heads marketing and communications, creatives, customer relations, and product development departments focusing on Havaianas and Aura Athletica. Named one of Go Negocio's 55 inspiring women entrepreneurs in 2016, she's still passionate about conceptualizing and creating new brands and products. We have so much to learn from her today about entrepreneurship, brand building, and creating one's own path in business and in life. Please welcome Anne Arcenas Gonzalez. Hi, Anne.
Hi, Mirza.
Hi.
I have to congratulate you also because you've been with us from the very beginning of this journey, 20 years. So people can guess how old we are. But I mean, you can do this is basically yourself. I mean, when we met,
Oh, wow.
you were in the magazine, and prior to that, you had this great career in modeling, and then now a career coach, and then this. So
Wow, thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you for that. I love how you are wearing your product, Havaianas, with your summer suit.
Yes,
You're gonna spark a trend.
Have to show that you can wear it, in a high and low way. So.
Exactly. And that's what you did in the Philippines. So take us back to the time and tell us in a nutshell about the conception, birth, racing, growth, and explosion of the Havaianas empire in the Philippines.
The origin story, which did not start as an empire very far. It was really mom and pop. It was our really something that started literally at home. So taking us back, I was in my early 20s. And it was my first job. I was working for a marketing arm of a TV network. And I was a young mother. And my husband, Freddie, and my husband was working for a family business. And early on, we realized that we wanted to take on a different path from what we were set on at that time. And so we looked at different business opportunities, and the one that stuck because of interest. So side note, my family and we are all big soccer fanatics.
Okay.
My husband has been playing the sport and now is very involved with the national team. And so it's something in us. And it was a magazine that was fully focused on football. And we saw this full spread in the magazine advertising flip-flops. And so we were very intrigued knowing that slippers, chinelas were always a part of the culture, but why is this brand so known and taking on, big advertising spaces in really with taking advantage of the culture at that time?
Right. And I saw in your CNN interview that you said that you decided with your husband that you wanted to define your own destiny.
Yes.
How
big
did you
words.
connect it to entrepreneurship?
Well, it almost is like an oxymoron because when you look up destiny, it means something that's predetermined.
Right.
And so how do you define something that's predetermined? I think when I think of that, but when I think of define, I think of mapping out. And when I connect that to entrepreneurship, I really think about, side note also, the etymology or the root word of being an entrepreneur, interestingly, is adventurer.
Oh.
And so to me, when you think about adventure or venturing out and exploring so many things, I think when it comes to mapping out or defining what will be your life path, then definitely entrepreneurship sort of fits into all of that.
Wow. So you took up European studies in Ateneo.
Yes.
And then I read also somewhere that you thought you would work as a diplomat or in the DFA.
Yeah.
Did you ever think you would be an entrepreneur?
No. I had really dreamed of even in grade school, I was exposed to a lot of it. While I went to a local school, the community we lived in had a lot of expats. And then growing up, I just was exposed to, I would say a little bit more than the usual.
Right.
And not having traveled outside of the Philippines, just by, encounters. And so I had really had this worldview and wanted to really build on that. So I had this dream. I would say it was really a dream. I said, wow, because your perception of what it's like to be a diplomat and living that kind of life, but also making some sort of change. However, entrepreneurship was not something that was in my radar. That said, I do know that, early on, I recognized that I could sell almost anything to anyone if I tried.
Right. Like ice to Eskimos.
Well, yes, yeah. And, so of course, my parents were very frugal when it came to like indulging, just buying us anything. And I'm the youngest child. So everything was a hand-me-down or sometimes just forgotten na like, oh, Anne needs this pala. So I really wanted to take control of that. And in the summers, if I wanted to buy something, I would host garage sales.
Okay, so early
on, and I would set up everything. I do the posters and the pricing, and I'd learn to negotiate with people. People would haggle, and then when friends who were doing some kind of, they joined like school fairs or they tried to sell cookies for the summer, I would help them, and I sort of felt like I recognized that it was something innate in me, but it was certainly not something that I thought I would be doing in my, as really as a job.
Right. So maybe the women listening out there who never thought that they could be entrepreneurs too, maybe you just have to look back to see when were you selling things to other people.
Yeah, and entrepreneurship is a mindset as well. And I really believe that entrepreneurs come from everywhere. It's really it really is an attitude and an approach to life, finding opportunities where they are, and being a keen observer. Like where can I add value? At the same time, where can I? People become entrepreneurs to make a profit also, right? So of course you also think about that. Like where are these opportunities?
Right. You also mentioned that you had no business background. What was that like, and how was the journey? What were the struggles?
I think when I look back, that was probably an asset more than a liability, because I think I was overly bold.
Okay.
Which is good because we were younger, we could take risks.
Right. Nothing to lose yet.
Nothing to lose yet. I remember having conversations early on with different people, and someone was telling me a story about something he tried, and then he said, in the end, it wasn't that large an amount, but I could charge it to experience. And I thought, that kind of clicked. I was like, oh, yeah, if I said, we try things, and if we don't, you try again, or you'll always gain something from it.
Right.
So having said that, that really allowed me to be, I guess, more open and less risk averse, but not foolish. Because in the end, I still believe that I did things in a way where I was still thoughtful
Okay.
about, and and I tried to inform myself as best I could and learn from people. I really am. I love engaging people, talking to a lot of times elders actually.
Okay.
So people who I feel are more not even elderly, but just more senior, whether in position or in age, who I feel have experiences and nuggets of wisdom to share. And I really made sure that I listened and paid attention.
Right. Speaking of older people in the industry, did you ever encounter problems for being one young and two female?
Okay, that's something that I have been asked before, and I have to be very honest. It's not something I can't pinpoint a particular incident. And that's not to say it doesn't exist, because I see it, like I observe it in other people. And one of the things I think about is maybe because I grew up, fortunately, in a household where the men really uplifted the women. I had friendships that were male and female, so it was always a mix. And I always felt that the women were included. In fact, a lot of times the women took charge. That whether it was just something that I wasn't aware of in the workspace, in the environment. Now, perhaps there have been times, I'm sure there have been, especially when I would travel abroad, go to, conferences and everything. I looked so young, because Asian, right? So they think, who's this child that's here in this meeting? And so one is, I think that I was credible. Once I started to speak, I knew that I could hold court. I knew what I was talking about. But at the same time, I was open. If I didn't know something, I would ask. But also that I didn't really pay attention to it. Okay. Maybe I didn't put out that energy that, that kind of thing sort of attracts me, or that, when it comes to just feeling excluded.
Right. A friend of mine who has a digital advertising company, she's quite young. She's only in her 20s. She said that she would bring along her American husband as a prop in order to be taken seriously in the big male-dominated boardrooms. Because she was 21 and she's petite. She looks like a child.
Yeah.
She had to bring a prop.
Yeah. Imagine. And I mean, now that you say that, in some of our early meetings, my husband, Freddie, was with me, but not as a prop.
Right.
You know what he looks like, so he is white.
Yes.
In fact, what happened is people thought he was my Brazilian business partner in the beginning.
Okay.
Maybe without me really paying attention, added to some credibility. But, we split our tasks early on, and it was me really that was, front facing.
Right.
And no, I think I just went in there with enough confidence, not being too, overly confident or aggressive. And I think maybe I put out that energy, and if anyone wanted to BS me or put me down, I just really had no time for it.
And what would you tell women in your shoes? Oh, sorry. Flip-flops.
Yes, flip-flops, yes.
If they encounter such a thing, or maybe if it happens in your company where women, feel disempowered or...
Yes, yeah. Well, if it were in the company, of course, that's something that we would want to be very aware of and report that, and put that in like the formal channels. And you can be sure we'd address it, because we have most of our leadership positions are women.
Okay.
So that would just not fly.
Right.
But I think for any other women, and I have 2 daughters.
Yes.
And you can't control what other people are going to think or say. What you have control over is yourself. Speaking of destiny, right? And so I always tell them that in the end, it's about you and what you believe in and what you put out there. Of course, there are boundaries. So when it becomes like things like are just not appropriate, then immediately I said, you need to call that out. Even in the moment, right? If you feel that it was inappropriate, and sometimes it might be something in retrospect. You're like, oh, maybe that wasn't. What did he mean by that? Or I don't think that was the right thing to say. Then speak up afterwards, or use it as a point of like reflection. But definitely, it has to start with the person. I think it's your own confidence, your belief in yourself, and that also shines through when you're with other people, whether male or female.
Right. You mentioned that in your company, the leadership positions are occupied mostly by women.
Yes.
What's it like to have that kind of environment?
So let me say again, it was not intentional. We are, the founders. We're a mix. My husband and I started it. We have business partners, female, male. So not intentional. It happened organically in a sense that in the 20 years, the way we really try to operate this as a meritocracy. So it's based on performance. It's based on skill and your attitude. And it just so happens that the key roles landed on women. And I see that a lot of the women that really are taking on so much and more than they should. Sometimes I tell them, guys, step back a little bit, right? Are the women who already have so much on their plate.
Yes.
Right? Someone told me something recently, like, there's a saying, like, if you want someone to get the job done, go to the one who has the most work.
The busiest person will get it done.
Right? And it's interesting. We have single moms, women who have like children who are ill, or they're battling some kind of challenge at home, and they're the ones who even excel more. And I think whether that's resilience or just this ability to multitask and be a nurturer and be everything to everyone.
Right.
But of course, that also, I don't want that to come at the with in exchange where it's a mental health or like it breaks you, right?
Yeah.
So we also have to balance that.
Right. I've been asked to give talks to companies where they notice, and this is a global phenomenon. That's why Sheryl Sandberg wrote Lean In.
Yes.
That the higher women go in the corporate ladder, the more they see that the women kind of back off and step back when given the opportunity to do more and rise up higher in the ranks, because for whatever reason, like they think that
maybe imposter
syndrome, or they don't feel like they could succeed. You have never stopped in 20 years.
No, because I really, again, and maybe I have the good, I would say both good fortune, but also intentionally chose to be where I am today as an so I'm not answerable to any. I mean, I'm not employed by a company, right? And so, and we're a private company too, so we can really make decisions and kind of. I have that. I would say I feel very empowered, but it comes with a lot of responsibility too,
right. Because as an entrepreneur, you feel that you're more empowered.
Yes, but again, I don't want also to give this false impression that it's everything, that I can do anything. No, I there is a side to it also where I wouldn't say it's imposter syndrome, but like I said, I have children, I have a husband, I'm very close to my family, my friends, and going back to being all things to all people. Sometimes it's guilt.
Yeah.
And guilt that maybe you're taking away from time from somebody else. I've never felt, sorry, let me rephrase that. I think there have been some moments in my earlier years where I thought, not that I do I deserve this, but this is more than I bargained for or I had hoped for. So I wonder, then you're thinking, is something going to go wrong or do I deserve it? But that was sort of a brief thing. And thankfully, I was sort of able to kind of rechannel that energy and not think so much of that. But the one thing that's still a continuous, also because I have an adult daughter and then a teen.
I'm shocked.
Early start. I think about these things also. It's like, wait, did I do this correctly? And then I have aging parents. I think that's something that that our generation from us Gen Xers are dealing with. We're kind of sandwiched in between, and very close. Really have to look after the needs of my parents, not because they ask it of me, but just because I feel like I should and I want to do it.
Right.
And so I think when you're going back to sort of that comment of women who rise to the top, I think the people have different reasons. But in my case, it's always, okay, how much is too much? And can I step back? But again, entrepreneurship allows you to kind of say, well, you know what? Yeah, maybe we won't go hard on trying to get that opportunity if it means affecting some of my personal things in my personal life.
Right. So looking back when you said you wanted to define your own destiny, fast forward to today, did your destiny unfold or rather fold since you defined it the way you wanted it to?
I don't think in the specifics of it.
Right.
I think in general terms, yes. You had mentioned, that, yeah, you can't believe I have an adult daughter. My daughter's 26. I had her at 19. So we were young parents. And I think that was something that really propelled us and propelled me as a woman, really, to say, I have this huge responsibility and I want to do well. And admittedly, in the beginning, it was the financial security that I was after. 20 years later, it's very different. The things that motivate me are no longer just money.
Right.
Of course, you have to be profitable because we're responsible, like you said, for almost 500 people. But, the values have also shifted. And with that, through the years, as I've grown, even as a person, I would say that things have happened to me where I think in general terms, I had hoped that they'd turn out this way. I wanted to be independent. There's a certain life that I wanted to have. But then there was so much more that came with it that was unexpected.
Right. So for all the listeners out there, why is it important to define your own destiny?
Well, really, it's when you think about it, it's about being able to master your life. It's not control in the sense of perfection,
yes,
or not being open to all the possibilities. In fact, it really can come together, right? That this idea of mastering your life and still be open to anything that comes your way. I think in the end, I go back to saying, mapping things out. It's having a plan.
Yes.
Someone told me years ago, there was a popular book called The Secret.
Yes.
And now the term is manifest, right?
Yes.
But when they told me that, they said, and I was just telling them casually about, they were asking about, your life story. How did the business grow? And they said, Anne, you follow The Secret. And I said, what is The Secret? And then I realized, this whole idea of manifesting, and mine is a more crass version. I tell friends, isuka mo sa universe.
Oh, okay.
Right? Whatever you want, you put it out there. I think I was doing that at a very young age, not really aware that it would really would come back to you. And then later on, I started to pick up and see, the energy you put out, good or bad, really finds its way to you.
Right. So why do you think more women don't define their own destiny and have a que sera mentality?
I can't speak for anyone else
Of
but
course,
myself, but
yes.
I will say you had talked about one, the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Guilt.
Right.
Being selfless. We want to do things for everybody else. Also societal and cultural norms. There's this whole idea of what a woman should be.
Yes.
And when you kind of push the boundaries, sometimes it's not even people that question it, but then yourself as a woman, you're like, wait, am I allowed to do this? It's funny, right? That you can even the word allowed, right?
Right, allow.
And so, and then at the same time, when I talk to other women, I find also sometimes it's a choice.
Yes.
They like where they are.
Right.
Right? They like someone making decisions for them for the most part. And again, it all boils down to the individual. If you find fulfillment, if you find meaning, you're happy in that place, who am I to judge?
Right. But would you encourage most women to do it?
From my experience, yes.
Yes.
But I would also be calculated. I would do it in a way that is thoughtful.
Right.
Not everybody can be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
One is, if you have to be able to reflect and say, am I in a point in my life, can I even do this? And a lot of it is financial,
Yes.
Truthfully, right? Can I do I have the time? So it's the resources. Do I have the money, the time, the brain, the bandwidth, right? In my brain, and the emotional ability to take on something else from what I'm doing right now.
Right.
Many times, entrepreneurs do it out of need.
Yes.
It's out of necessity. Like in the pandemic, right?
Yes.
There was this fact that the Philippines, it was women who really leaned in, and what really helped our economy was women. Because they just, whatever they were doing, if they had formal job, they had a career or a profession, whether they put that on hold or did that side by side with a side hustle or having some kind of business to survive during the pandemic, they did it.
Right.
So for me, I think it's about making sure that it's something that is for you. But again, you won't know unless you try. So I think there's sort of like you have to, you can't just kind of dive in there and then, not realize that you have other responsibilities.
Right.
Hi, I'm Joelle, and I'm back. Did you miss me? I wouldn't call this a season 2, but rather just another era with more lessons, realizations, and thoughts from all the overthinking. And it's not just gonna be me this time. We'll have special guests, other POVs, para mas marami pa tayong masagot na paano kungs ng buhay to hopefully help you find the answers you're looking for. Tara, this is Joelle's podcast, Paano Kung.
But do you believe that entrepreneurs have more control over their destiny?
I think to the extent that we are our own bosses, we can manage our own time. There are also a lot of you're able to push the boundaries more versus someone who works in a corporate setting or in a profession where, like if you're a doctor, a scientist, I mean, you have, rightfully so, right? You have to stay within certain parameters. Right. So, I think, ultimately it again, like I said, you have to kind of weigh that, right? But yes, entrepreneurs, I think, have a little more wiggle room, but more responsibility than someone who is employed. Right. Because in the end, like you said, over 500 employees, that nonsense me. And I've had sleepless nights on certain decisions where you're like, what am I, like I have to think about an entire organization.
Right. And during the pandemic, this was very
yes. Yeah. But something that we could, very real, but something that I was very proud of. And is that we had very little attrition. We were able to hold on to most of our employees. Those who left, typically, they chose to. It's like, now they realize, oh, I actually am burnt out, or I want to now take care. I have to do other things, venture into other things. And before the pandemic, we had already set up, this was a critical part, and this is talking a little bit more business. No? We had set up our e-commerce before the pandemic hit.
Oh, wow.
And that really kept us afloat because everyone was shopping online. And when you think of the two brands that we carry, Havaianas flip-flops or Athletico, which was loungewear and activewear.
Right.
So many
pandemic wear.
Pandemic wear, yeah. And then having this, I would say, pretty solid digital commerce platform that just became more robust as the months went by.
Right.
We were even able to do internal hiring and shift around the roles and maximize the team.
Wow, congratulations.
But it came with a lot of sleepless nights, for sure. And a rise in the cortisol.
Our best friend, cortisol. So now you're going to give us your tips on how our listeners can also define their own destiny as you have.
Well, yeah. Well, my first most important is reality check.
Okay.
Where are you in your life, right? I talked about this earlier can you even venture out? Do you have the bandwidth, like I said? And that's key. And then the second one is sort of tied to that whole introspection and self-awareness is review or really assess your values. So I would liken it, let's say, to someone let's say you're an accountant working in a company and you realize, okay, I'm thinking of being a baker. That's always been my dream.
Right.
And one of the things, let's say, that kind of ties you down or what you want to change in your job, let's say you value equity and you're not feeling that there. You're not noticed. People are kind of like overlooking you and all of that. You don't feel as fair. I think, okay, if you're thinking of like maybe your bake shop or something, how do you then sort of build on that value that when you're there, are you going to, let's say, the way you treat your employees, how you hire, that, making sure that they also have a fair share of the profit, that they have that it's a work-life balance for them and that they also have other opportunities. I don't know why I thought about bread. Maybe because I said the
pandemic,
cortisol and the pandemic sourdough. Yeah, but I think I tried to putting it into something more specific and an assessment of your values and your beliefs, and does that thing that you want to pursue align with that?
Right.
Another one I would say is very important is letting go, and this is something, Mirza, but really it kind of clicked when I turned 40 is you, of course, letting go of material things that hold you back, things that are not. Marie Kondo says this when she was cleaning up, diba? She's like, things that don't bring you joy, right? But more importantly, I have not been afraid to cut people off in my life who I feel no longer are sort of more of a weight. Like we're not, and I see it as both ways, that I'm not giving them any value and they're not giving me any value. So I mean, people can easily say, especially in the Philippines, but family, blood is thicker than water. Not that I've cut off any family members, because thankfully I have solid family. But, friendships, relationships, even people that you've met in the business that you felt very close to or connected with at a certain stage in your life. And then now it's like, wait, this is maybe even toxic.
Yes.
I mean, that's a word that we hear a lot. And so I think that's very important. If you want to take the next step, like that's a very bold step, you need people in your life who are going to champion you and that you can also lean on.
So the naysaying friends.
And the naysaying
jealous
sometimes.
friends.
Yeah, sometimes those are, you can even just kind of poo-poo that. But when it becomes really like a weight where it's like sometimes you think, did I really spend that 2 hours in a good way? Diba? Parang I could have been doing something else with my time. That I became much more aware of as when I hit my 40s. That, okay, time is finite and you want to be with the right people.
Right.
I would say also building your arsenal is key. If you're going to map out your destiny, you need to be ready to learn and unlearn. For me, the unlearning part is a critical part. Doing away with bad habits, not feeling like you know everything, always being open to a different point of view. And then if it's a very specific goal that you have in mind, you have to make sure that you are building your skill set for that.
Right. What did you have to unlearn that was very critical?
I'm in marketing. I'm in brand and marketing.
Right.
So Mirza, when we met 20 years ago, I would say, even from the last event we had last week, I've already something we were doing as, business as usual, no more, doesn't work. So I would say that from a very specific, like in terms of what impacts my profession and the business, like just marketing trends are so fast.
The world changed so much.
The world changed so much. And then, being open to, again, I don't like to say, we're more senior, so we know more. Absolutely not. I think for me, nothing excites me more than when someone in my team says, "And you didn't know that." I don't see it as an insult or or questioning sort of my abilities or my skills. It's more like, no, I did not know that. And so, I think that's so important in what I do. I think that's something very specific. But unlearning can also be habits.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so one of my bad habits, I would say, and I'm still trying to kind of work through that, is overthinking. Overthinking, which comes with anxiety.
Yes.
And so I sort of have to just kind of master that. And the last one, kind of connected to letting go, is while you let go, you also have to nurture the relationships in your life. I think it's interesting because when you talk about defining your destiny, it's you, right? It's all about the person and it's so personal and only you can take control. But you need people around you.
Right.
And I think it's very important to look at, when you think about your idols or people you admire, what are the qualities in them that you like and that you want to espouse? And surround yourself with people like that.
Right.
So that it kind of, again, it's infectious, it's inspiring. At the same time, don't just be stuck with people who have the same point of view as you. I think dissenting opinions that are communicated in a constructive way are so important for personal growth. Like, you can't have people who are just drinking your Kool-Aid, right? I mean,
the yes men.
You cannot. I think it's so important to have roots and to be grounded and really people calling you out for, or and if not calling out is even extreme. It shouldn't get to that point. It should be, that you're just open to different points of view and an opinion that is very different from yours.
And how did you find your tribe? And do you have any tips on finding those people?
Again, very lucky. So growing up, number one, first, my very first tribe were my siblings.
Okay.
So we're very tight. And my parents, we do talk about this. We do verbalize this to one another. Like, we really lucked out as we get older. That's not to say everything is like kumbaya every day.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, our chat, we'll say, bawal lang pikon. Right?
Okay.
But, everyone keeps each other in check, and we have very solid roots. The family unit is really pretty solid in that sense. And I think because of that, when I started to develop friendships early in life, my best friend from elementary, we're still very close. She lives how many miles away in another country. We're godparents to each other's kids. And then in high school, I still have the same set of high school friends, the core. So I'm all about, and not intentionally, quality over quantity. It just happened that way, that, we attracted, we seem to parang have
I
the
saw
same
your assumption
energy.
video.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. So, yeah, that's really that's my group. We call each other, that's our bunch. And we're kind of spread out in the world. We have a chat group and check on each other from time to time. But really, and then being open, I've also met people in different stages in my life. And, I used to think, am I not being a good friend? I'm spending more time with this person than my OG. But that's a thing also. If you know yourself well and you have a good people around you, then it's not about how many hours you spend with me, right? And so then, through the years, I've met people who I don't even see, but talagang long stretches. But then when we check on each other, it's meaningful. Like I really feel like there's that saying, like my heart is full. Like after you have that exchange, it's like, I feel good.
The real keepers.
Yes, the real keepers. And it shouldn't be one way. I also feel like you have to be generous also with your time, your knowledge, generosity of spirit.
Right.
They have to also get something from you. You can't be taking the whole time.
So if there's only one takeaway that listeners can get from everything you taught us today, what would that be?
I think I'll start, from the beginning and about when you talk about sort of mastering and that it's about the individual is ultimately the only thing standing in your way when it comes to really mapping out your destiny, achieving your goals, is yourself.
That's true.
It really is true. Someone, again, I just like to give examples. Not long ago, someone asked me, okay, wait, Havaianas, 20 years. Like, but why do you think it succeeded? And I could give a litany of answers, but I said, ultimately, I wasn't the first person to think of that. Right, bringing in flip-flops, elevating it, etc., seeing the opportunity. I think the difference between me and maybe the other person, okay, fine, time, maybe naunahan, but also I actually did it.
Yeah.
Right? To me, sometimes you have really great ideas and you've heard that before. People say, I thought about that. Oh, but then you ask, but did you do anything? Right. And again, it goes back to, I think of a lot of things that I could have done. And I think, but I didn't, I didn't have follow through, or I didn't really put all my heart into it. And then you realize, okay, sometimes, like you said, selling ice to Eskimos, it's really because someone actually attempted.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's action and execution.
Action and execution.
Quit the overthinking, right?
Yes. Yeah, but also self-reflection after. It's very important.
Right.
Yes.
Wow. So what's up with Havaianas and or Athletica these days?
Lots of stuff. So after a hiatus, I want to say 5 years, since 2018, we're bringing back our banner event, which is Make Your Own Havaianas.
Has it been that long?
It's been that long.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we paused in 2018. We were going to come back in 2020 and do it, like I said, every 2-year activity instead of every year. And then the pandemic hit. So this is really something very exciting. It's focused on music, the theme, and it's March 15 to 17 in Moto Street at Bonifacio High Street.
Right.
And then, of course, just more things. We're opening more stores, but also reinvesting in our stores so that it's really a refresh.
Right.
And for Aura Athletica, what is most exciting, a lot of people don't, it's a very cult niche brand. It's one location in Power Plant Mall. We also have a website, which is auraathletica.com. But people who know us for our imported niche, sort of multi-brands, international labels that are quite pricey. However, during the pandemic, we developed a private label. that sits at a very friendly price point. So you can get your leggings, your tank tops, and even loungewear and casual wear at a good price.
Right.
And so that one is showing a lot of potential. And it's definitely, the wellness health space is only going to continue to grow. So we'll be doing more with that.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes. All right.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you for listening to You Can Do This. If you want to know more about me, visit Mirza.com. That's MYRZA.com. And follow me at Mirza Season on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and LinkedIn. If you like this episode, please don't forget to rate it 5 stars. Hit the follow button on your podcast streaming platforms and hit the notification bell to get alerted every time we release a new episode. Catch you at our next convo, and always remember, you can do this.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.